Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Lillian. Happy Friday to you. I cannot believe that we are here on episode number 5 in our 6-week series of Untangling Societal Norms. A reminder that well behaved women rarely live their best life. And today's episode is all around the topic of being a lioness leader, which means really leading by example and having a roaring voice for change. And so
Mhm.
I'm excited to talk about this today. I try to make positive impacts and change in my life on a day to day basis. I know you do too, as a coach. So, why don't we just dive right in and get the party started? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I just kind of want to preempt this with, when we talk about leaders, many of us think of formal leaders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I often do in my team and group work is I say that everybody's leading. If I'm sitting there with my arms crossed and my eyes rolled, I'm leading. I'm leading somebody. Somebody's watching me. Somebody's wondering, should I be, upset about this? Should I be whatever? So I really want to reinforce here that we all are leaders somehow.
Yeah.
What we're calling forth here today is the lioness leader. And maybe Sarah, talk a little bit about the lioness leader.
Yeah. So a lioness leader is someone who's bold, someone who is courageous, someone who is resilient, meaning that if there's failure, if there's obstacles or things that are stumbling or getting in your way, you somehow manage to always rise up, kind of dust yourself off and try again. To me, that is what a lioness leader is. And you're totally right. You're totally right, Lillian. We are a leader in our own right in any aspect of life, whether that's in our own communities, whether it's through church or some type of spiritual aspect, whether that's actually in your home. I know I tend to be the leader here at my house. I don't know about you, but I mean, I tend to be the leader here. So, I'm excited to talk about this today. Maybe share some really great stories about women that we know in our own lives or maybe ourselves, what we've done to make some positive change. And I know that you have a really great story to share. So why don't we dive in and share your story of being a lioness leader or of someone that you know that is a lioness leader?
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of makes me think of the lioness out there who's like a lion, a lioness, who's just lying there basking in the sun and has no reason to be roaring, right? Until she does.
Yeah.
And that was the circumstance where I was in a job. I was a supervisor, coach, trainer in this company way back, and we were asked to do an evaluation on a vice president. And so I went in the last moment and went in and I started answering all these questions. And then I noticed there were some tabs on the bottom. So I went down to the bottom tab and I noticed that there were all the previous years, and I could see everybody in the company what they had replied as far as evaluating this VP.
Okay.
And I thought, boy, that's confidential information. That I'm sure she wouldn't want that known,
Yeah.
and people who have evaluated wouldn't want that known. So I went right to the president and said, "Hey, this is what's happening. I noticed this," and she got all flustered and she just sat there and she just went, "Well, there's nothing we could do about it." And I kind of went, "What?" And she goes, "No, there's nothing we could do about it. And we've tried whatever." And she made some kind of excuse. And I walked out of her office and I walked around the building for like an hour thinking, this is not right. And how can you just answer me like that? So upset, still upset because I was really caring for everybody's well-being here. I went into the VP and I told her what happened. And she goes, "Yeah, I know." She says the president just came to see me and told me, but she was really embarrassed. And so she didn't know what to do. And so she told you I said, whoa, whoa, hang on a second here. So not only did she not reply honestly in the first place, but then she realized what she did. She came to you, but she didn't come back to me.
Yeah.
So I went right back into the president's office, roaring with my tender lioness ways. But I took the time and I said, listen, I'm really disappointed here. So I allowed her to see what my emotions were. And I said, not only were you not honest with me, but then you didn't come back and talk to me and apologize, which would have been okay. right? But you didn't do that, and you left me taking that responsibility. I am not the VP. I'm not the president. It is not my responsibility to make sure that things go right. And you left it in my hands.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
said, so what's resulted is that I've got a lack of trust here.
Ugh, yeah.
What are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
And so that's where it went. But the point was that it was my time to step up as that lioness, to roar for the sake of well-being of everybody in that organization, and to call people out on where they're not showing up.
Yeah.
It's okay not to get angry, not to call them names, not to,
Yeah.
there's a methodology around all that.
Yeah.
But the truth has to be spoken, because if
Yeah.
I don't speak the truth, how do I expect others to do the same?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really great story. Yeah. Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that with me.
yeah, yeah. And what about you, Sarah? You've got a story that's pretty interesting as well. I know you've been with this
Well,
one person.
yeah, I feel as if I try to be a lioness leader in a lot of aspects of my own life, right? I'm the vice president of an HR firm, and so I run a small but mighty team of 10 people. And so I try to be lioness in the sake of creating an open space where people can thrive and grow in the workplace. But then at the same time, I'm also a lioness leader when it comes to being a director of HR for dozens and dozens of companies, right, and helping them create positive cultures. I try to create a very positive influence around HR, because some people think HR people are just the scary ones who come in and terminate others.
Yeah.
And I'm all about changing that perspective, and that people are companies' greatest assets, and we need to focus time, energy, and attention in helping develop people grow. And that's really what can make a company thrive. But even more so on a personal level, I am a mentor through a really fabulous organization that I actually used to work for many, many years ago. And I still love the program so much that I stay in it every single day. And now for 5 years, I've been working with one particular student who, when we met, we were, um, he was a sophomore in high school at Mumford High School in Detroit, Michigan.
Mm,
Detroit public schools are not known for being the top notch, best school districts in all of the land. But I was able to be partnered with this young person. And through working with this individual one on one for several years now, this idea of considering college was something that was never in their mind before.
right.
And maybe thought about marine biology or a little bit lofty type aspirations and goals, and thinking about going, to Florida for school or so on and so forth. But through our partnership, we were able to work on making them valedictorian of the high school,
Mm.
and also receiving over $800,000 in scholarship funds to be able
Ooh,
to go to any college of their choice,
wow.
and ended up choosing the University of Michigan. So now is experiencing the whole college experience at the dorm, doing well, and most recently just shipped off to Japan for the first time, leaving the city of Detroit, hopping on an airplane, going to a foreign country, to just get exposure to more global culture. And we'll be back sometime in August, right before school starts back up. But to me, that is what a lioness leader is: to be bold, to look back behind you, to the side of you, kind of pull someone in, mentor and coach them, guide them, and to have them be better than you ever were. And so I am so proud of this young person and the life that they're going to lead. Um, he is brilliant, and I just know that there's going to be some new game out there that he is going to create, and I
Yes.
just can't wait to see that go
Mm.
further in life. And so
Yeah.
I try to be bold, I try to be courageous, I try to be a raring voice for change all of the time in any part of my life. So whether that's at work or in my own personal life or with students that I work with. So I'm really proud to be able to share that story.
Well, and look at what I find so exciting about this is it's not only that one person that's benefiting so much in their life right now, but look at the joy it brings to you.
Yeah.
This is not this is a pure example of not happiness, not like happiness when he ends up, in the university, or not happy when he's in Japan or whatever, but just this constant joy of being part of a change, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we're talking about, right? We're leading by example and roaring for change, right?
Right.
And I want to kind of push this because I know you well, Sarah. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things that just makes me as excited, like you're sitting there about this guy, right? I am so excited about you because I see you, being the lioness leader for yourself, for your life, for
Yeah.
your, like, you are a go-getter. Like, when I talk about unstoppable women, this is my Sarah, she's just like gets up, goes, what's the next thing? And
Yeah.
every now and then we have to check in, just like we did yesterday together, check in and say, okay, when's enough right now? When do we need to pause? When do we need to celebrate
Yeah.
these moments of our lioness showing up, right?
Yeah.
Our
No,
lioness leadership. So yeah, that's a perfect example of how lioness leadership can show up in different ways.
I appreciate that. I do. I mean, we've made some, significant changes in life. And I was just this past Monday, I taught my first Zumba
Yes.
class. Let me tell you, that was one heck of an experience. It's one thing when you go to an exercise class and you do your hour workout and you're the participant or the student in the class. But when you have to be the instructor, right? You've got to have the smile on your face, you have to have the energy to motivate, you have to know the moves, teach the moves, get everybody energized. That takes a whole level of energy and leadership that I wasn't 100% prepared for. But it was quite the experience. The women in my class ended up having a really, really great time. I had some really awesome photos with them, and they're excited to come back for the next week. So I'm really, really pumped about that.
Yeah.
So thanks for
It,
calling.
it, it reminds me of my days when I was teaching aerobics to plus size women years back. And I remember as I'm listening to you, I'm going, yeah, I got so excited about that one move, the grapevine. And then all of a sudden I go, whoa, what's next?
Well,
I'm so
I'm not gonna lie.
excited.
There were a couple of times where I was like, "Whoops!"
Yeah.
I hope I got it right. And you just have to improvise, and you just have to,
Ah,
figure it out. But yeah, so I'm the says celebrate the wins, and we have to remember that. And I think when we can work really hard, make some really positive change, and celebrate that, then we can just move on to the next thing and can
yeah.
continue to grow and change. Yeah,
But that's the example of fearlessness, right?
yeah,
And fearlessness has to be there if so that you don't feel the imposter syndrome. You don't say, well, I'm not that great Zumba teacher or aerobic teacher as I was. I'm not that great person that knows everything yet. Well, forget it. Fearless. I don't care. Trip over my own feet, miss a step. Okay, let's start over and make a laugh about it, right?
yeah.
That's getting past the imposter syndrome, the fears, the all of that. It's just doing it anyway, you
Well,
know
let's just talk about this, right?
Mhm.
There was a time, not just as of recently, where I was so nervous and fearful of hopping on video, or I was embarrassed of what people would think about me and what I was saying, and I was trying to perfect it and overthink it way too much. And here
Yeah.
we are in episode 5 of this really great conversation about women, talking about important topics that matter. And it's just now flowing much better. But I can tell you, when episode 1 started and we hit the go live button, I was petrified. I was nervous of what was going to
Sure.
happen. I was afraid of how, this would be welcomed and received. But now it's like, hey, who cares what anybody thinks? I'm really proud of us. I'm proud of the conversation we're having. I'm proud of the topics that we're discussing. And this is just a really awesome experience.
But isn't that the whole thing behind the lioness leader is you need to know your why.
Yeah.
Why are you stepping in and roaring for change is because it matters to you. That's more important versus whether you're going to trip and fall or say something wrong or whatever. That is what motivates the lioness leader.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Why am I getting up on the stage and doing my Zumba class? Why am I showing up for these, 6 series? Everything is behind your why. You have to know why you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
That's what drives. If I think, we had pulled up a few names, thinking of these people. Rosa Parks. Okay. She was on the Montgomery bus, sparked the civil rights movement. Okay.
Yeah.
Her why was so important, right? You've got Malala I can't say Yousafzai, the Indian girl who stepped up for education
Yeah.
despite the life-threatening opposition that she was putting herself in, right?
Yeah.
But she so believed her why was so strong. Serena Williams for Black women who weren't treated fairly, in sports, women,
Yeah.
sport, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right?
Amanda Nunes. I don't know if many people know who Amanda Nunes, but I'm the brought it up. She's a fighter. She is a UFC fighter, and she's a lesbian, so she's part of the gay community. She's just a lioness for change. I think they actually call her that, if I'm not
Oh, wow.
mistaken. I mean, and so she was a pioneer in the whole MMA fighting and kind of UFC fighting, and she's phenomenal, and she's a great role model for young women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
belts retired. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
You think about women, and so many amazing women to be able to talk about who are roaring for change, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg from the Supreme Court Justice here in the United States. That woman I admire and adore, and I just respect her kindly. I mean, I think about celebrities. I think about Pink, the singer.
Yes.
Right? I love that woman
Yes.
who is a voice for change and for the misfits of the world, and
Yes.
has such a positive voice. Michelle Obama, who
Yes.
is an amazing human being. Even if you want to look at Lady Gaga, right? She kind of changed the whole world for people as well. There's just so many wonderful women who are making positive change that I look up to and worship and adore, and look to them as an example as I just try to make small impact and change in my daily life.
Right. But now that these women or women have done this individually, notice the power that's been brought together as women collectively now.
Yeah.
We don't need to be the great, game changer of life. We don't need to be the Mother Teresas. We don't need to be the Michelle Obamas. But individually, everything that we do on a daily basis, the way we step up and speak our truth, collectively is going to make the changes that got us here so far.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
And I think, for me, it's about living a life of integrity. I learned this very, very young that, do what you are supposed to do, even if do the right thing, if even nobody's watching you. Right.
That's right.
Yeah. And when I go to sleep at night, I put my head down and I can close my eyes with certainty that I am trying my best and I'm doing right by myself and I'm doing right by others. And I live a life of integrity and I try to do what's right as much as possible. And then when I fail or I mess up or I make a mistake, I try to own up to that as well and admit that and try to learn the gifts from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of leadership too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the words that you use a lot, Sarah, is try. You don't try. You do. That's the lioness. You're not trying anything. Sarah never tries anything. Sarah does.
I mean, what else do I got to lose at this point, right? I have beautiful nieces. I have a nephew who I adore very, very much. And I hope that one day when, my time on this earth is over, that they look at me and they say, holy, whatever. My aunt was the bomb.com and she plowed her way through grad school and she was a voice of change and she lived her truth. And I want to be able to accept, to set that example for them, but for other people in the world as well, that regardless of your circumstance, no matter what you've come from, whatever was given to you, you have the choice. You have the power to do anything that you want to in your life with enough grit, with enough tenacity, with enough boldness, with enough courage. Even when you're scared shitless, you can do it. You can do it. And even if people aren't behind you or if people are trying to get in your way, there is something when you are passionate and you are in love with something,
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Yeah.
And very often we think sometimes some things are happening to us, and we say, why is this happening to me?
Mm,
Well, I'd offer us all to look at it differently and say, why is this happening for me? Or maybe for me to be called forth to do it for somebody else.
yeah.
Where, like, what is it that's calling me forth here? Um, because those are opportunities, and we miss those opportunities if we don't pay attention to them. And that's the moment for us to step in and be that person that's being called forth. I
Yeah.
mean, I know you don't have children, Sarah, but I've got 2 children and 3 grandchildren, and many times they'll come to me and lean in, and I can see that they're asking for my guidance of some sort, because I've demonstrated that. Just like you said, you do that for your nieces and nephews. It's like we're demonstrating our power. We're not remaining powerless, but we're demonstrating our power so that when it's needed, it's called on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to practice it. Imtha, you're asking, how do you reinvent your why to maybe move in a different direction? How do you reinvent your why? Well, Sarah, maybe you can answer that because we've done some work on the whys, right?
Yeah.
And
I
you were
don't know.
there.
I mean, maybe I don't know if it's reinvent. I think it's really truing understanding your why.
Mhm.
Like why is it that you do the things that you do? And you've got to be super laser focused on that and have nothing or anybody come in your way. Like for my why, it's probably to shake up the status quo and to prove to people that I am more than just a label. I'm a gay woman who that was a really hard thing for me to come out. It was hard to come out to my friends and my family, but to live my true authentic life, to be who I was, I had to own that. So I knew that I'd have to shake up the status quo from which most people wanted me to live or how they wanted me to live. I lost circles of friends. I have issues with some certain family members who don't necessarily agree with my lifestyle. And I had to still plow through and live that authentically for me to be wholeheartedly and happy.
Yeah.
I shake up the status quo in the fact that I choose not to have children. It's not
Yes.
that I want to live a life by design, and I love to work. I love to travel. And children and raising a family just wasn't something in the cards for me. It wasn't
Yeah.
something that I was passionate about. Do I support women who want to do that and raise a family? Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always staying true to yourself and doing what is best for you instead of what other people think is best for you. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that helps. I don't know if that
Well,
helps.
and I think you're right, and it makes me think of the clients that I work with. Whenever they're apologizing for how they're being or how they're, um, eh, we need to be in that place of unapologetically me,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah,
want to. This is who I am, and this is why.
yeah,
This is why this is important.
yeah,
And sometimes, we're living with people, we have to conform certain things, but when our why is so strong, there's no stopping me. There's no telling me I can't do that. I'm thinking of this this gentleman that I know right now. I had a conversation with him last night, and he lives a life of very free spirit. He believes that, you know, you don't own me, I don't own you. We're in a relationship. He's always been in relationships where there's an agreement where, if I'm attracted to somebody else and I'm tempted there, I'll let you know. But it's almost the polyamorous kind of lifestyle, right?
yep.
But that's his belief. He is living right now in a relationship he's been with for 4 years now.
Okay.
And she doesn't want him to be alone with another woman. So he's not living his life authentically.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And I mean, you know, inside, if you're not living the life that you want to be living, so if I say, Sarah, you should be married to a man and have children, That's not honoring who you are.
It also didn't go very well.
It's also didn't go very well. Yeah. Been there, done that. Not the children, but you've been there. Yeah. Yeah, but that's that thing where we're not living our lives. So we have to really understand why that's important to us. And sometimes it's just, why do I prefer women? Why do I prefer men? Why do I want children? Sometimes it's like, I don't know. It's just what I want.
No,
And I
it's
don't have to
the way
explain
that
myself.
we were born. It's just the way that we were born, and I love women, and I just, and that's just it. That is
Yeah,
it. I don't know any other way to describe it. I love women, and
right. But sometimes our why is like, our values and very strong. But sometimes our, why we do something is just that's who we are. We don't have to apologize or explain anything.
yeah.
We have to be really clear about that, especially when we're not conforming to societal norms, right? Although nowadays, being gay, not having children, those are becoming more norms, right?
That's
We're
right.
changing those norms, which is what we need to do.
Absolutely.
I want to go to another question Imtha has here. How do you maintain that focus if you're an easily distracted person?
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
commitment is probably the reason why most people don't lose weight when they want to, or don't finish things that they want to. The commitment is the hardest part, right? But it starts with, I think, small little basic movements, and you're not eating the whole entire elephant all in one sitting.
yeah.
For me, it was, I wanted to make a change to the way that I was, starting my day, right? So I started my morning with a walk, and every day I stayed committed to a walk with my dog for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then I started to go, okay, this walk is becoming easier. Maybe I could do 2 walks a day. And when you stay laser focused on that one small thing, not a whole bunch of things, and just really get laser focused on one, it helps you build on. And that's when you can really start making, great progress, is when you can
Yeah.
advance from that. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And where it comes around with easily distracted people, when you're an easily distracted person, I look at this as my positive intelligence training. Okay. And when I used to get triggered, so I would used to get triggered, still get triggered, right? But it's how you handle it, right?
Yeah.
So I would be conscious about saying, okay, when I'm speaking with my husband and I get triggered, I've had reactions, right? I've reacted in a way that I didn't like. So what I said was, okay, I need to start paying attention to that. So that's just like that one small thing. Just doesn't have to be with the world, just my
Right.
husband, right?
Yeah.
Then I said, okay, if I can catch myself being distracted or triggered by that person and I'm in the parking lot, I can stop and say, okay, that just happened over there, and I need to start catching myself when that happens. And so eventually I catch myself in the parking lot. I catch myself in the moment, still triggered, still react, and I can apologize. And then eventually I've gotten to the point where 2 days later I go, "Oh wow, my husband said this to me the other day and I didn't get triggered." But I don't realize it until later. So what I'm doing is really changing when I get triggered is the same thing. So in this case, if I'm not living my why, I notice it in the parking lot. I notice it, in the elevator. I notice it a little closer to when it's happening. And then I can always go back to somebody and say, "Well, Sarah, we had that conversation yesterday, and I realized that I didn't answer the way I really wanted to. I didn't step up as the lioness, in this situation. I
Yeah.
didn't stand up for being unapologetically me. I didn't, stand up for the change that I, so believe in."
Yeah.
And I can come back and have that conversation with you. And it's probably better to come back because at that moment I might have been triggered.
Sure.
So sometimes we just have to play with our own experiences, but we have to keep evaluating that. That's the beauty of working with a coach, by the way, because that's the kind of stuff that we work on and say, okay, what do we need to work on this week? Leave you with something, come back, we talk about it, what worked, what didn't work, why, what would we do differently? Those are things that we're just bringing all this up to the surface of awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which this topic is all about, bringing this, the awareness up of societal norms.
Yeah.
What are they? What are we accepting?
Yeah. And what are we tired of accepting? And how do we make small positive change to get out of that? I mean, that's the beauty of
Yeah.
our relationship.
Yeah.
When I came to you, I had this whole idea of I'm going to write this TED talk, and I was on this mission to be in a revolutionary, change agent. But I had to realize that there were some, small changes that I had to work within myself, right? And you helped me do that every 2 weeks over the last 2.5 years, and here we are
Yeah.
talking about that progress
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how that
But,
has totally changed my entire life. Yeah.
when I'm thinking about the changes that we tolerate, sometimes we don't even know we're tolerating them, because I'm thinking about way back. Oh, and we're talking about maybe 20 years ago. I said to my husband one day, I said, I don't know what to do with your laundry. Like, it's inside out, some's on the floor, some's on the bed. Like, I don't know what's clean, what's dirty, whatever. And he looked at me and he said, I love my husband. He looks at me and he goes, well, then don't do my laundry. And I went, what? You mean I have a choice? Where in my head did I think I'm
Mm,
the woman, I need to be doing the laundry for my husband?
that's the
I
society.
have not done my husband's laundry in 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He has his laundry bin. He does his laundry. I have mine. I do my laundry. The other day, I mean, he left something in the laundry too long, so I put it back in and to wash and dry, and then I put it on the bed for him to fold. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just being helpful. That's just being, somebody who loves somebody. But where do we conform to these norms and not step up in that? The lioness doesn't have to roar loud. The lioness can come in gently.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just stepping up and leading in a different way,
Yeah.
bringing in new ideas, having the conversations that are important.
I agree. I
Ha-
agree.
Imtha, have we answered your questions, or is there something that you want to tweak a little bit that we haven't answered? Um, you know, I love this topic. Just we are all responsible for change.
Yeah. I
We
agree.
make change happen collectively,
Yeah.
but we don't have all the battles to fight.
Yeah.
What's yours, what's mine.
Yeah.
That's important. That's our why.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite sayings is, a small ripple can really start a revolution. And I think, change begins with me. I think there's a Rumi quote out there that says, yesterday I was, wise, so I thought I would change the world. Today I am, I forget what the exact quote is. So but
Mm.
the change starts with me.
Oh,
And I think,
absolutely.
yeah, and I think if we just really hone in on that, and really stop putting the blame on everything else and every other person, and start turning the finger inward just a tad. How could I make this better? How can I change my life? How can I make some small, decent change? To change the circumstance, because I've got to be tired. I'm living the definition of insanity, doing the same
Yeah.
thing over and over again, but expecting different results. And I think that's what happened to me. I was tired of living the same thing. And then there was a lot of parts of my life that I wasn't living authentically, and I wanted to change that. And so thank you for being really helpful and helping me do that. So
Well, in the coaching relationship, the coachee has to show up. The coachee doesn't show up, there's nothing a coach can do. Okay, so that's really important.
yeah.
I do want to elaborate a little bit on something that you said that I think is really important. Sometimes we notice things that we're wondering, we could be so judgmental and critical about how somebody else is handling something,
Mm. Mhm.
and they're not handling it the way they should. Like, why does that woman allow that whoever to speak to her like that, right?
Sure.
um and that's where I'm saying we need to pay attention to the signals that maybe is calling us forth to be that lioness, because that person is not yet strong enough to step up and roar for herself.
Mm.
um that's a cry. So I remember way back in my coaching years when I started coaching with nurses, and I remember this one guy, this leader, who I was in a workshop, and he said to me, what really pisses you off? I remember the whole theme was around working with nurses. And I said, what really pisses me off is nurses who just go into work and complain about how difficult the situation is, how much work they have, how much, little staff they have. And it's even worse than when I was pissed off about it. Right. But they keep just complaining and they don't do anything about it. And they keep wanting the system, healthcare system, whoever they are, right? There's always they, the big they, to change things for them. And so that's why I stepped in. That became my why in the moment. If this helps him to clarify things, or for others who are listening here, that, this is the why that said, no, I can't allow this to happen. I've been a nurse. I've been there, and I will not settle for the way things are. I'm going to step up and I'm going to roar. So I stepped in and said, I need to be that Lioness leader for nurses, to say, you don't need to tolerate this. You need to step up and you need to start looking after yourself. Stop waiting for the system.
Yeah.
But the system owes me. Yeah. How's that working for you?
Right. Totally.
Right?
Yeah. You've got
you, HR, Sarah.
Yeah.
You see that. How many times did people turn around to you and say, HR needs to do something about this? The organization needs to do something about this.
Yeah.
Where are you doing something about this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I see that very often, especially with managers or leaders or supervisors. Well, so-and-so is not doing this and so-and-so is not doing that. Okay. Well, have you even started with a conversation about, in a kind way, that their behavior or performance or whatever they're doing is wrong? They're not mind readers. So unless you don't know, you can't do better unless you know better. And so it's up to us as leaders, or if I'm speaking to a client, it's up to us to have that awesome responsibility and be that person to help guide, coach, and advise others to make positive change. It doesn't just happen automatically.
Yeah, we need to be an activist in every moment.
Part of our life, in every part of our life.
Yeah. And I think that's where women actually are pretty strong at that. We step in the places that matter. And I'm making a very broad statement because, but I'll notice that a lot of men will just keep going and doing things because they've got to get their stuff done. And they've got their numbers to meet and, all that kind of stuff in the workplace. But women will stop and pause and pull people back and go, well, hang on a second. Where are you rushing off to here? We've got things to fix here before we move on.
Yeah. Or women will also look to so-and-so and say, hey, it doesn't look like you're all right. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Can I support you? What do you need? So women are they have that natural nurture and kind of instinct where, I got to check in on everybody else too and make sure we're okay.
Yeah. And that's the paying attention to signals and being intuitive about it and saying, is this my moment being called forth to say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about times when, somebody speaks up and says, I'm not talking to you. You're not involved in this. I'm talking to her. Yeah. Well, I'm not involved in it until you are mistreating somebody and they don't know how to defend themselves. Then I need to step in.
Yeah.
That, can you see? I like Amantha saying, the Lioness protects her other pride members. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the, and we need to be fearlessly doing that.
Yes. Yeah. We need to take care of ourselves for one, right? Take care of ourselves. We have to start with us. I think if we could maybe just kind of wrap this up for today, Lillian, right?
Yeah.
Number one, we need to be true to ourselves and authentic to ourselves. And then it's about making small, little, impactful changes on a day-to-day basis. And then it's also about reaching to the side, both left and right, and helping people go with you and leading by example. And to me, I think that if we all just took pause and changed our mindset just a tad and focused on ourselves and each other in a much broader sense, we could make so many wonderful changes in this world. And we could not we wouldn't have to have these conversations about untangling societal norms.
Yeah. I think you hit the nose on the
you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, you did that. I mess up metaphors so much that they have a name for people like me who do that. It's called a malaphor. It's
Oh
when I
my gosh. So
yeah,
my wife is the queen of messing up metaphors. She'll,
yeah,
it'll be I'm between a rock and a wall.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
a
Okay.
hard place. So she's like, she's the
So
queen of
so
that.
totally off topic here, everybody. I want you to Google malaphors, and you're going to have a good laugh
Metaphors.
because
Okay. Oh,
I probably wrote them all. Uh,
goodness, that's hysterical.
yeah,
That is
but
funny.
here's the point that you're making, because we've been calling forth people to step up, be lioness leaders, to be roaring for change. But I think what you really pointed out that's really important is many of us are that lioness leader 24/7, and we're exhausted because we're constantly stepping up and looking after everybody else's roar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the key is start with yourself.
Yeah.
Back off a little bit and say, where do I need to start roaring for myself?
Yeah.
What do I need? When do I need to say, I'm not doing this today because I need time? Sorry, honey. You're on your own because I need the time. That's as important, if not the foundation of
Yeah.
being strong enough to roar for others.
Yeah. And I know a lot of women have a very, very hard time with doing that, right? How can I? I've got work to do. I've got a family to feed. I've got, kids to take care of. I got to run them to this. I got to do all of these things. You can create a system in your life where there is something that is non-negotiable for you. And you deserve a half an hour. You deserve 1 hour in a day to take care of yourself. So screw all of that societal norm crap where the woman has to manage and do all of the things in the house. You can't be all of the things to people if you can't be to yourself.
That's right.
And I watched my mom struggle with that her whole entire life, and it unfortunately was her demise because she was taking care of everybody else. And when I watched her take her last breath, it was a promise to me, and it was a promise to everybody else that I would not become that, and I would love myself and honor myself wholeheartedly. Yeah.
And the thing too is, we have a responsibility, and we're talking about women here as women, to help other women roar.
Yeah.
And if we're constantly roaring for others, then we are enabling them.
Yeah.
We are not helping them. We're not helping them grow and become those fearless lionesses for themselves and for others in the future. We're as responsible for that as for ourselves, for change. We need to help others develop their roar.
Absolutely.
So that's a great place to pause, stop, and allow you. I think the question I want to ask is for our listeners is, where is your roar needed right now? Is your roar needed for you? Is it needed for something that's going on at work or in your relationship? Is it needed for your neighbor, your friend, your whatever? But check in with yourself. Have I fueled my own before I start to look after others? And I think that's the question for you today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for helping me find my roar, Lillian. I appreciate you. And thank you for this wonderful, awesome conversation. I can't believe this is episode 5. We've got one more episode on next week, Friday. I can't even believe it. Gosh, what is the date next week, Friday?
Today is the 12th, so it'll be the 19th.
The 19th. So July the 19th, our final session, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a really great wrap-up session of everything that we've talked about today. We're excited about the opportunity and kind of ready to close out this series. But please remember that you still do have an opportunity to kind of get Lillian and I to come on out or do some type of virtual or in-person presentation on a topic of your choice. It's a value of $5,000 each. So please take advantage of that. Please enter that in. But Lillian, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you next week, my friends.
Yes, the same here, Sarah. I always love you, and I'm like, it's just, yeah. And sometimes no words are more words.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We love you. Take care and be safe.
Take care. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Till next week.